You made it to the end of the week. It is Friday edition, orange and blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, Broncos running back position, which is perhaps the most perplexing position we get to talk about on offense.
Perplexing, intriguing, fascinating.
Yes.
Call it what you will. Fantasy player's nightmare, perhaps?
Is Mike Shanahan running the show? It's complicated and talented, I think, is another word we can use to describe this.
That's a good way of putting it. Talented, different sets of talents. That's the thing. Different skill sets here with the two guys potentially atop the depth chart. I say potentially because it's a little bit in flux, and you can't rule out a guy who frankly was the most consistent running back the back half of last year, but sometimes is forgotten in these conversations, and that's Jaleel McLaughlin, who is not somebody we've talked a lot about in the course of this offseason, but is somebody who may still have something to say about the composition of this running back room when all is said and done.
Yeah, I don't think we should count him out. Not that we are, but I've always asked the question, have we seen the best of Jaleel McLaughlin? And my answer 90% of the time has been yes. The other 10% might be now based on your reports from OTAs. And even Mike Cliff said this guy's not going to let the job go. He's not going to go quietly. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see him there, he's going through a drill, but watching him in the team periods yesterday, he had a lot of quickness. Now, no pad workouts certainly play to his strengths, because the quickness, the burst is going to be on display there. But the experience in this offense certainly helps him. He knows how to read the holes as they develop. He's probably even more decisive than he has been, but the experience, I think, is going to play to his advantage. Even though physically there's only so much at his size that he can do in pass protection, but he has learned how to read defenses, read where the rushes are coming from, knows how to diagnose things pretty well from 2 years of film study. I mean, I don't know where exactly he's going to fit, but when I keep doing my 53s, Cease, I keep coming back to having him somewhere on that 53. I can't get that out of my mind.
Yeah, and he's so good in what he does, Mace.
Yeah.
He might just force. Sean wants to use 2.
Yeah.
He's pretty much said that. I want 2, and they've had to use 3. Well, Jaleel might be so impressive in everything that he does and the way that he prepares and what he can do on the field. He might force that 3rd spot for himself.
The change of pace, just the curveball. And there have been years for Sean Payton where he's used like 4 or 5 guys, but sometimes that's because of injury. But he wants to get it down to a primary 2. And that's where those 2 guys that you saw pictured at the top of the show, Audric Estime on the left and RJ Harvey on the right, it will probably come down to those 2. Now, certainly Tyler Bidet, who was active there, of course, for the playoff game, and then you see a glimpse of him there from Thursday's practice. Tyler Bidet is certainly going to have a say in that, although you do wonder if maybe the best chance for him went away when he had that back injury there 1 week after he had that explosive run in the second half against Tampa Bay. Sometimes that window opens and closes. Of course, it took him a while to get that window to open because he had multiple years on the practice squad that he kind of toiled and waited for that shot. So, there was a reason why, he kept going to the practice squad, whereas Jaleel McLaughlin stuck on the 53. Like, Jaleel McLaughlin made the team over Tyler Bidet in 2023 and 2024. So that's another thing that comes into the calculus as well. So you would have to say that if it came down to those 2 for running back 3, wouldn't you say Jaleel probably has the edge over Bidet just because he's beaten him out twice already?
Yeah, and what's funny about that, Mase, is that Bidet has a more well-rounded skill set.
Yeah.
What Jaleel can do, he can do better than Bidet, but there are things Bidet can do, like run in between the tackles and not lose his feet, that Jaleel can't. So Bidet technically is like, quote unquote, the better back. Blake Watson may be, quote unquote, the better back, and Jaleel may beat them both out.
Yeah, but also it also comes down to who you think maybe you can slip through the practice squad too. The fact that Bidet has slipped through the practice squad multiple years, frankly, he may be somebody the Broncos simply value more than other teams. And Bidet being so far removed from his draft cycle year probably means that if you want to have him for depth on the practice squad, that there's an excellent chance that you can slip him through the practice squad and have him as that depth guy there, just like you had last year. And so that sort of calculus is going to come into play as well. And then Blake Watson, he had some nice moments yesterday as well. And there you see, he's got the feet moving there during that individual period as well. But he's going to have to show some spark. Like Blake Watson, if he's going to nudge his way into the mix, he's going to have to dislodge somebody here in this realm. He's going to have to probably dislodge Jaleel McLaughlin. That's probably his path. He's got to be better in space and more dynamic than Jaleel McLaughlin is. That's probably his path.
Which means he's got to be better in pass pro, because Jaleel, even though he's small, he understands the assignment.
He knows where the rush is coming from. That's the thing that allowed him to stick in those limited opportunities he was out there. He studied like that. He's in at 5 a.m. He's watching film. He knows the only way that he's going to have any kind of success out there and be able to play on third downs is at his size. He simply got to know where the rush is coming from enough to be an obstruction, because he's not going to be able to do what Javonte Williams did last year and use his size and frame to be sturdy and block. He simply has to know where the rush is coming from and just get in the way long enough. That's what he has to do. And if he can do that, he's going to get some snaps. Blake Watson, bigger and sturdier, has a chance to block. And he's going into year 2. He's been around. He studied some film. Obviously, he doesn't have as much playing experience because effectively he only played briefly in that Chargers game. So certainly he lacks the practical experience that Jaleel McLaughlin does. But that's the thing. It's a fascinating room because we let off with Estime and Harvey, but we're talking about the depth here. It's a more wide open situation, perhaps, than it may appear to be on the surface.
Right.
That's the really interesting thing about this.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's one of those things of like, we can probably put together a good 53 right now.
Yeah.
But my God, we cannot determine these running backs, because I can't even say Estime's safe, and he's the best power option that this team has.
The best power option, and we come back to him potentially being RB2 with RJ Harvey, because the skill set and the size certainly fits best as a complement to RJ Harvey. Now, RJ Harvey is thick and sturdy, so he does have the body type, even though he's got quickness. He does have the body type to be able to handle himself in pass pro. But the quickness factor and the burst that he has means you're talking about him doing some dynamic things in space, whereas Audric Estime, the way he's built, doesn't have as much open field speed. You're talking about him being more of that kind of plow horse back, the short yardage back. Skill set wise, they complement each other nicely, like two jigsaw puzzle pieces that fit. And so that's why you and I talked a lot about this leading into the draft, that the type of running back the Broncos picked could determine which running back was in the best shape, which returning running back. That if they picked more of a power back in this draft, that it could favor Blake Watson being RB2. If they picked more of a quickness back, it would favor Audric Estime. So they picked a quicker back, and certainly it favored Estime, which is part of why after all that the time we've spent talking about RJ Harvey in the last few weeks, I felt it was appropriate to ask Sean Payton on Thursday just about where things stacked up for Audric Estime here going into year 2.
Yeah, year 2 for him, just running style, his physicality, the things that got him drafted, the things that we saw. A little bit harder for him last year for a handful of these guys. I don't want to say the grade was incomplete, but they just didn't have enough. He's a back that requires enough touches. He's going to get those opportunities.
He's going to get those opportunities.
Yep.
Basically said it right there.
Yep.
That he didn't get enough touches and he's going to get them now. He basically threw the door wide open with what he just said.
And boy, Estime had better pay off, because this is the best opportunity he's going to have. The coach is publicly saying you're getting a large opportunity.
Yeah. Between now and the end of August, this is his window. And we talked about this. It's not just about how much he grows as an overall runner. A huge part of this comes down to protecting the football. Because if he puts the ball on the ground the way he did last year, any progress he makes in every other area of his game, it's frittered away.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's gone.
It's a trust issue.
Yes. Because last year, he has fumbles in training camp. He had the fumble in the preseason game against Indianapolis. And then he fumbles in week 1. And then he comes back and play when he's playing in October, and he fumbles again. And they've got him carrying a football all around the facility. I mean, that's an embarrassing punishment to have to tote a football all around the building. And then everyone on the team is told, try to poke it out when he's in the lunch line.
Yep.
Try to poke the football out. I mean, you joke about it. It's funny, but it's not funny when you're dealing with that, right?
When you're the guy carrying the ball.
Yeah, that's kind of an embarrassing thing to deal with. And that's what was put on Audric Estime last year, because he kept putting the ball on the ground. It's an old school type of punishment. This is something that's not unique. It's been done plenty of times before. It's a little bit, it felt a little bit like a college type of thing, not really an NFL type of thing. But hey, sometimes you got to do it, right? You got to remind the guy, hey, ball security is job security. You hear that from quarterbacks, but it's running backs too.
Thank you, Brock Osweiler.
Yeah. And if you're a running back and you're a fumbler, I mean, and it can get in your head.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. I mean, we all know Melvin Gordon a few years ago, man. The ball security issues that got in that poor guy's head. And it really basically ended his career. A good running back, very productive over the years, but he couldn't hold on to the ball, and that was the undoing of him. And I mean, you worry for Audric Estime, man. If he goes out there and he puts the ball on the ground a couple of times in training camp, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, it's only natural that there's going to probably be some loss of trust at some point, because you can only put up with it for so long if you're a team.
And he's a 5th-round pick. They've got literally very small ties to him. 5th-round picks get cut all the time.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, you're not a 1st or a 2nd round pick. 5th round picks, it's a different calculus. 5th round picks are $5 bills.
Just throw them around.
Yeah, it's nothing. And this is another thing. And this is why we talk about all these guys in the room, because if Blake Watson is going out there and doing good things and he's not putting the ball on the ground, and Audric Estime is, and we know Sean Payton does not care about draft status, how you came into the league, and Watson's protecting the ball well, and Jaleel McLaughlin has a low fumble rate. The coaches trust Jaleel McLaughlin. It's one reason why he's still around. Fumbles for him are rare. Fumbles for Audric Estime have unfortunately been common. They trust Jaleel. Audric Estime has to re-earn that trust. And these things do matter when they're figuring out who's going to be on the team and who's going to get the touches. If you're Audric Estime, man, don't put the ball on the ground in these practices. And yeah, it's off season, it's OTAs. It's not everything, but it's not the end of the world. If, like Sean Payton was talking about guys like John Franklin Myers not being at OTAs. Of course, there's the contract situation looming over everything with JFM and brushing it off. I mean, it's not mandatory right now, right? So it's not everything. The only mandatory part of this offseason stuff is minicamp in a week and a half. So it's not everything. It's not the be all end all. It's not important, but it does matter.
Eye in the sky is always watching.
Yeah.
And where it's only practice, I mean, they're going to see everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You catch passes on the side and they'll see you bobble something.
Yeah. And if you do good things, even when the pads aren't on, everybody notices. I mean, RJ Harvey, you take it all with a grain of salt that it's only practice. Pads aren't on for another couple of months, a little under 2 months until those pads go on, a few days in a training camp. But when you see that burst and you see him getting open and you see him adjusting nicely to an errant pass from Jarrett Stidham and making a nice catch, you see the body control, you see the jump cuts, you see him making something out of nothing. It's hard not to be encouraged. And Bo Nix, for one, noticed what RJ Harvey was doing.
Well, he's done a really good job working. He does a good job out of the backfield. It's hard to tell with shorts and t-shirt, what it's like running the ball with the no pads, but that's obviously why we got him. So we know he can run the ball, but I think it's the other things that he's showing, just the routes and his suddenness and quickness in hands. I think all that's really good to see, but he's a great guy, great dude first and foremost, and then I think it's going to translate for him being a successful player.
Pretty confident right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And young quarterback likes what he sees. Because Bo's one, he's not going to throw a guy under the bus, but I don't think Bo's going to flat out do the Vaughn thing of like, everybody's great.
Yeah.
I think Bo
That's not Bo.
A different answer. Yeah, he'd have a different answer. Not throw him under the bus, but he wouldn't be as complimentary as he was right there.
Yeah. Bo would say something nice, but he wouldn't be effusive. I think the thing about Bo is if he has something good to say, if he really means it, it'll be something like that where there's some specificity to it. There's some meat on the bone of what Bo Nix was saying there. You can tell that it wasn't BS.
It's earnest.
Yes. There's it's earnest, it's sincere, it's authentic. Yeah. Authentic Bo. That's one of the things I like about him is how authentic he is.
It's part of the reason why we developed a Bomance with him last year.
Oh my gosh. By the way, a few of us were talking after that press conference, and I and I was having a conversation with our good friend Chris Thomason from the Denver Gazette.
Yes.
Yeah. And we were ruminating on just how far Bo has come in a year, like his first press conference when he first came to Denver compared to where he was on Thursday, and how much more in command he was, how he's really grown and he owns it now, man. Like he's come a long way. Those first times he met the media, understandably nervous. I mean, you got to kind of grow into that role, and he truly has. So, and now, like when he's asked about a rookie, that answer, kind of being honest, having some specific things that he said that really reveal that, okay, this guy is a good player, that he does have something that you can bank on for the future, complimenting a teammate and not having BS to that statement. I mean, that's appreciated, but also he understands that answering questions like that's part of his role. That's part of what being a team leader is. You gotta talk up your guys.
But guys will sniff it out if it's not authentic. If you're asked a question and you start doing a list of everybody because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh gosh.
Don't do the list. You don't need to do the list.
Naming everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. We all do. The guy who was there 2 years ago. Yep. The guy who's with the Giants now.
Yep.
Gosh. I don't miss that.
I don't miss
just like I don't miss having to chronicle quarterback competition. I mean, we're chronicling a running back competition now.
Right.
That's better. There's always something to discuss. Like there's always some kind of competition to look at. I mean, I guess it's going to be running backs this year that we're kind of diving into with detail with great interest. That's fine. It's a lot different than quarterbacks.
Different story.
Yeah, the whole quarterback thing, when I saw I think it was from ESPN Cleveland, and they had the stats on Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett and Shedeur Sanders, and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh man, we are past that, and I'm so thankful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's running back time.
The running back competition. The thing with these 5 running backs, I'll say this as well. Would it surprise me at all if all 5 are still with the team in some capacity in mid-September? Not at all. In fact, I'd say there's a very good chance all 5 are still with the team by September 15th.
Mm-hmm.
3 on the 53 and 2 on the practice squad. There's a chance all 5 may carry the ball at some point this season just because of injuries and attrition. And maybe because, to go back to, say, Audric Estime, for example, what if he steers clear of the fumble monster over the summer, but the fumble monster comes back in the regular season with a vengeance? Mm-hmm. And then, you got to go get another guy, as Mike Shanahan might have said.
Mike is pretty blunt at times.
Got to get another guy. Yeah, just go out back to the other guy tree and get another guy.
Get the running back tree out.
Yeah. Mike always had another running back in the running back tree. Like you go to 2004 and they trade Clinton Portis and they draft Tatum Bell. They had Quentin Griffin early in the season. He got hurt, and then Tatum Bell was okay, but not quite ready. And then they move Reuben Jones over from fullback, and he ends up exploding, and he ends up being the guy, right? It was the mid-2000s.
Well, when they got to Peyton Hillis that one year, he was their 7th guy, if memory serves.
Well, he wasn't their 7th guy. I think the 7th guy by the end of the season was PJ Pope, if I'm not mistaken. Because
they went through a lot.
They brought Tatum Bell back. Remember, Tatum Bell was working at a mall selling cell phones, and they brought him back. They had, but Peyton Hillis was there. They wasn't Spencer Larson. He played both
Didn't
ways.
Ryan Terrain try to get something done there too?
Ryan Terrain, he tore his ACL. Okay. If Ryan Terrain had not torn his ACL, I believe it was in Cleveland on Thursday night, terrain would have been the answer. But also to show fumbles. Problem. Andre Hall, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Out of USF. Fumbles undid him. Fumbles will make you lose the trust. Andre Hall had some flashes, but he couldn't hold on to the ball well enough. That was it for him. Fumbles. Doesn't matter what you do. You could be spectacular, but if you can't hold on to the ball, it's going to be curtains for you as a running back. And that's what Audric Estime has got to focus on more than anything. Hold on to the ball because, like Brock Osweiler said, and it's true for running backs, ball security is job security.
How do you think the running back competition is going to shape up? Tell us down in the comments down below. But Mase, also, how can folks help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
So that you
never
miss
vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mase Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?